Okay, so here we're going to try this again. I'm going to invite. And Tammy, please text and let me know if you're coming on.
I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now? Okay, and now let me try and get
I don't know
Sandy
what
back,
happened.
okay? I don't know. Okay, we hopefully should be good. Hopefully she's
I'm so
gonna come
sorry,
right
Sandy.
back. There!
We're back.
Yay!
We're back. So we're just talking about what, some of the goals that Sandy had prior to making the decision to have your weight loss surgery, right? Is there anything else that you felt? I mean, we talked about the benefits of the weight loss, right? We talked about getting healthier, looking better, feeling better, more confidence, feeling as though you're in the right body.
Yes, very hopeful. I didn't just get to 290 pounds overnight. I was binging and purging. It was a combination thereof. And my hope was that, this weight loss surgery would stop this essentially. That was a big hope of mine as well. Yes.
And
awesome.
And when you had your weight loss surgery, did anybody say to you, "Oh, listen, you're going to have to learn new ways of coping. You're going to have to learn new ways to manage your stress. You're going to have to learn new ways to do all of those things"?
I mean, when I did a lot of research before this weight loss surgery, it's been 5 years in the making. And then I found, my family on Instagram, my community, and of course you hear here and there that you need to change your ways, and this is more a mental thing than it is a physical thing, and the sooner you start getting used to that, the better for you. And I think people acknowledge that, but then people have the surgery and they're just excited to lose the weight, and then all this like emotional stuff, that's, you kind of get thrown into that. You don't. I was not prepared for it. I wasn't. And I did a lot of research. I'm a translator by trade. I'm a patent translator. I have to do a lot of research. I researched the crap out of the surgery, but that was new territory for me.
And I think that's, you guys, while I was struggling, did all the good. And I think this is a good transition into the bad, right? The things that we don't always know how to handle or manage. And did beforehand, did anyone say to you, "Gee, maybe you should get a coach or a therapist to see every week," because things are going to come up that are painful. They're old things, old stories in your head, or you're going to uncover old hurts and traumas that you never really dealt with before.
No one told me that. For my surgery to get insurance approval, I had to have one little session with a psychiatrist just for him to, approve me for surgery.
Get him to say yes.
And he touched on, that this is emotionally difficult, but I don't think anyone wants to hear that. You're so euphoric. You're like on your way to insurance approval, and all you want to hear is your insurance, your surgery date. You don't want to hear about how hard this is going to be mentally. That's not something. I don't think anyone wants to hear that.
Right. Or like, I know when I had surgery, my thought process was, "Oh, well, that's not going to be me."
Oh yeah, I mean, I've dealt with clinical depression all my life. Well, 25 years. That's a big chunk of my life. I'm old. So I was like, I got this. I've had therapy, so many times. I know the spiel. I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good.
If I just lose the weight, I'm good. Like the weight loss was tied to all these problems and they would all magically go away. Just, if I could only just lose the weight. Yeah.
Right. Or the weight loss was the whole problem.
So what were some of what were some of the things that came up for you that were the bad stuff? You know, the stuff that you really didn't want to look at, but what came up that was
Well,
surprising
so
to you?
I always say that my brain is my most beautiful asset, but also my biggest enemy. My brain is almost like its own little person. And this may sound like I'm certifiably insane, but I'm not. It's when my brain figures certain things out, it runs with it. And it's almost too powerful for me to control. About 7 months post-op, I started binging again. And it happened like a light switch was flipped. It wasn't something gradually. It was literally from one day to the next. I stuffed a whole box of Twinkies down my poor tummy. It didn't stay in there, of course, because my stomach was like, well, hello, what is this? We can't hold this. So there came the purging, and I was mortified. I was horrified. I was like, what? Why is this even coming back? And to coming to terms with that I have an active eating disorder, although I had weight loss surgery, has been my greatest struggle. And I don't know why it even happened. There was nothing that triggered it. It just happened out of the blue. It's like my body said, time is up, we're good, we've lost the weight, now back to regular scheduled programming.
Was it that your body said that, or your thought process, your brain said, oh, I'm finally thin and I don't know what to do to deal with whatever anxiety and stress is going on now, and so that's the way
Yeah,
that I know how to do it.
it wasn't my body demanding Twinkies. It was my brain. Also, I remember vividly when you have the surgery, at least my dietitian, she kept repeating over and over again, if you do not stick to the plan, and if you eat even a little bit more than you're supposed to, your stomach will burst open, you will become septic, and you will die. And I had that scared the out of me. And so I stuck to that program. I have this whole schedule, like ingrained in my brain. But as soon as my brain figured out that I'm not going to die if I eat a little bit more, and I'm not going to die if I eat a whole box of Twinkies, I'm going to be miserable, but I'm not going to die. As soon as my brain figured that out, I was a goner. It was just, it just.
I had a client, she was a 76-year-old woman who broke down in my arms one day in one of the group sessions that I was leading. And she had had lap band surgery, and she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said she was so upset because she thought that when she would have her weight loss surgery, it would be the last thing she would ever have to do. And that has really stuck with me for so many years because it's hard work. It really is. And it's not just, I assume, the, fantasy of like, oh, this is going to give me a fresh start. I'm going to be able to reboot. And if you don't deal with some of the issues that perhaps are really ingrained or built in, you're just going to not have the right tool set in order to help to support you as you go through this journey for sustainable long-term success.
When I'm doing therapy with clients, I'll often say, hey, the surgeons laid you down on the table on the day of your surgery and took out the coping mechanism that you've utilized your entire life or however long. And now the rest of your life is about learning new skills, really. And especially in that first year when your surgery is working and everything is magically happening, because surgery doesn't fix your brain. Didn't fix my brain, doesn't fix anybody else's brain.
Right.
No. And what's worse for me is I'm 19 months post-op. I feel like, and I'm more on the negative side than I'm on the positive side. I've never been like a cheerful, optimistic person. I've always been the pessimist. So my pessimist brain says, well, that's it. You've clearly failed. And it's just a matter of time until you put all this weight back on. You're fighting a 8-pound gain from your lowest, which the optimist would say, well, you started running, so you probably put on muscle mass, which is heavier than fat. But the pessimist says, no, 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 no. This is what happens when you start binging again. You've never formed the habits that you're supposed to form. And so now you're 19 months post-op, and you might as well just start buying larger size clothes again, because pretty soon you're going to be back to where you were. And that's my daily struggle. It's like a spiral that I'm in all day long. And it's exhausting.
So let's go back to what you said, because you said you were talking about binging and purging. So is part of the binging for you, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Is it because you want to, do you tell me
It's,
like where you're at with what you think?
It's almost like there's this pressure that builds up. It's like, so food for me is a drug. It's my drug of choice. You know, some people have to smoke crack. Some people have to shoot up or have a bottle of, I don't know, vodka. For me, it's food. It's almost like this intense pressure that builds up, and all you can think of is food, 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 food. And not like broccoli, you know, but like the good food. You don't want to, you don't want to over binge on broccoli. No, that unfortunately never happened. So all you can think of is like, I have to have this box of chocolates, or I have to have this bag of chips. And it's like you're on autopilot. Like, it's a force bigger than you are. You can literally not control it. And so you throw on some clothes and you go to the nearest supermarket, because you don't have that stuff in the house because you're a good bariatric patient, right? So you go to the supermarket and you buy all that stuff, and then you go home and then you eat all that stuff, and then you get so sick that the purging sort of happens by itself. And then you're left with nothing. The pressure is gone, but now the voice in your head says, what have you done? Another day ruined. Okay, tomorrow we'll start with a profi again in the morning, and tomorrow will be good.
What about starting today, right after you go through that binge purge process?
Yeah, and you know, they always say you don't have to start a diet on a Monday, or you don't have to make changes on a Monday. You can make changes right then and there. But if you have an all or nothing approach, which that seems to be my type of approach, that day is a wash. That day is gone. So tomorrow morning, clean slate.
Tomorrow morning, clean slate. But you'd be surprised to find out how many bariatric surgery clients or patients have that very black and white, all or nothing thought process. And I think, you know, people who diet in general, that's how they think. We all think, oh, I screwed up today, I'll start tomorrow. Oh, it's Thursday? Oh, forget it, I'll start on Monday because I want to have fun over the weekend, right? And so
plus the week's almost over, you know, so.
Right. And so that sets up the dynamic of good food, bad food, and giving food some sort of moral concept. You know, and I know I work with clients around food. We have to shift our imaginings about food to be, food is energy, right? It's like if you think about your body as a Lamborghini, or, you know, one of these cars that men go out and spend $2 million because they're handmade and there's only one, a Bugatti, right? You don't put regular old Shell unleaded in your Bugatti. You get the super high octane, right? Because you want that thing to go, man. And I think when we begin to shift our perspective about how do we fuel this Bugatti that we're driving around every day, that helps. But it also has to do with, how do we see our own self? How do we believe in ourselves? How do we see that we can do things?
And I think that's my issue. I see all these people here on Instagram, and granted, Instagram is a very filtered world, you know, essentially you show the people what you want to show them. But if I look at some honest accounts and I see that they discovered the self-love, this is a world that has not open up for me. I'm not proud of myself. I don't love myself. I have no feelings for myself. And I'm so trying to get there, but I just don't know. I tried everything. I read every book there is, every weight loss surgery and now what book there is. I've done therapy. I don't know. I can either keep going the way I'm going right now, and then this will fail essentially at some point, or
Well, I think that sometimes it takes a skilled person to work with you. I call it like the ball of wool, that there are so many things that are going on in your head and feelings that you have about yourself, old patterns, old habits. And until you can pull each piece of the wool out and really identify what's going on, it's just a jumbled mess. I mean, you really need to work to unpack things. So it's really it's really a 4-step process, Sandy. It's really about exploring what some of the issues are so that you can unpack all of it. It's coming up with a plan that you hopefully will adhere to. Then, of course, it's taking action and having action steps, and the accountability piece is really not, for example, if I was coaching you, it wouldn't be that I would want you to be accountable to me. It's how do you learn to be accountable to you? It's really about that self. And then, of course, if things go well or they don't go well or the way that you were hoping to, then you evaluate and then regroup, because goals can always change. So if there's one thing very specifically that any of my clients are interested in working on, it's really about, okay, let's name 2 or 3 issues that you might be having, goals that you might have. Let's scale them out to see which is the most important and tackle one thing at a time so that it's not all a jumbled mess, because that's setting you up for failure, not setting you up for success. So, a skilled coach can really help to work with that. And of course, that is different, for example, than what a skilled therapist might do. So there are a lot of times that I will work with clients such as yourself, and we work through this process of unraveling that ball of wool a little bit to really kind of help get to the process. But then if you were my client and you were talking about eating disorder or things that were really outside of my scope of practice, that's a different tool set for someone else to handle that really has the right thing. So I think it's, it's a multi-pronged approach in support to help somebody to identify what some of, the underbelly of issues really are. How does that resonate with you?
Someone doesn't binge and purge if their life is golden. Surely there is something in me that should be fixed, needs to be fixed, could get fixed. I'm trying to figure out what it is, but I can't.
But that does not mean that there's something broken and wrong with you. And I think so many times we go into surgery thinking, oh, there's something wrong with me because I have this issue. And if I were only perfect, then I wouldn't have this issue. I would know exactly what to do. And, so much of our lives, we're taught how to cope. We're taught how to talk to ourselves. We're taught how to interact with our own image, not by how we do it, but often by the environment we came out of. So those we went to school with, those in our household, those that we dated. So all of that interaction tells us how we should view ourselves. And I think sometimes it's learning that I am okay just the way that I am. And I struggle.
Yeah, that okay, just the way I am. That's a huge struggle I have, because I have very high standards for myself, and if I don't reach them, then I'm not happy. Like I'm 8 pounds from my lowest weight, which was my goal weight. And I I'm so upset and so frustrated with myself that it's basically I'm standing next to myself and I'm watching myself do all these horrible things to my body, and I'm watching myself putting on weight. Why am I doing this? Like I had 80% of my stomach cut out. It's not like a teeth cleaning, This is a real surgery just to be back where I was 19 months ago. I I don't understand that.
Okay, so all right, so I am listening to you, and I'm hearing so many things, and I think it's important that you acknowledge for yourself the successes that you've had. Number one, you made the decision to do something and be proactive to change your life. Many people don't even get there, so that's huge. Pat yourself on the back for that. Be kind to yourself in the fact that your body has gone through this significant, weight loss that you've had.
Right.
That's a huge accomplishment. And in the, continuum of change that people go through, roller coaster effects and backslides
Correct.
is part of the process. So that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go back to where you were. That's an extreme. That's the all or nothing that you were talking about. So, you're a living example of, you're talking about 8 out of 125 pounds. If you have the ability to consider the positive steps that you have taken, even if you have challenges, and you focus on that and you put that positive energy back into your brain, then eventually your brain will catch up with those thoughts. You might not believe it today, but just think about all of the success that you had. I think it's awesome. The challenges and the success that you've attained for yourself. So, in thinking about that, if I was saying to you what you're saying to me, like as your friend, and I was to say exactly what you just said, what would you say back to me? How would you reflect back to me?
I would probably tell you just what you told me. You should be proud of yourself because you've come very far. You made a good decision for yourself. You started running, which 19 months ago, that would have running. What is that?
Right.
Crazy people do that. And the logical part of my brain gets that, but but my soul doesn't get it.
Right. Well, it could be just repetition. I'm sure you've heard this, fake it till you make it. And even though you don't believe it right now, that if you tell yourself all those positive attributes about yourself and you keep telling them, even though you don't believe it right now, eventually your brain will catch up.
Yeah, I heard that before. And I know that these, some people that I really admire, they do these affirmations.
Affirmations are great.
Yes.
Which, yeah, I should probably start doing that too. I'm just sad. I'm in a rut and I'm sad and I feel like I'm sliding back more than crawling out of that hole,
Does it sometimes feel like earlier you said that sometimes it's like you're standing beside watching you do these things, watching yourself do these things. What is the girl doing all the stuff? How angry is she?
The girl who's shopping for all this crap and then eating it, she's very angry.
And what is she doing to actually deal with the anger other than stuff it down?
That's it.
And so sometimes we have to get it out, and that's really kind of figuring out ways to call out the anger in those moments. And as the angry girl is getting ready to shove the Twinkie in, it's kind of like, do I deserve to be punished for whatever, whatever I'm angry about? Because I'm really angry at Joe Schmo or at James Dean or whoever. I'm angry at my boss. I'm angry. So why am I punishing myself? And sometimes the girl on the outside that's watching, that's observing, kind of standing there just watching what's going on, she can speak up and say, hey, hello, hello. And sometimes, the girl that's in pain can hear her.
Yeah, sometimes when I get to this point where it's like I need to get certain types of foods now and eat them now, sometimes if I'm really quick, then I put on my running, clothes and I go running. But sometimes it happens so fast that I'm literally, by the time I start eating, it's only then that I realize what I'm doing. It's almost like I said, I'm like on autopilot. It's nothing. I don't see anything left and right. It's just like that one goal,
And once you notice what's happening, even if you've already gone to the store, you brought everything home, once you notice what's happening, then what happens?
Well, but then I have shopped for the food, and then I have made every excuse in the world. I can always start tomorrow. I don't have to. I can allow myself this one last meal. Famous words. I'm gonna write these down one day. I can allow myself this one last little slip up, and then tomorrow, everything will be better.
And what would happen if as soon as you realized what you were doing, if you smashed all that food up and flushed it down the toilet or threw it in the garbage can, what would happen?
I think it wouldn't alleviate that pressure buildup, because that pressure buildup is only alleviated like once I actively eat.
Because that's what you've done, all you've ever allowed yourself to do in the past.
Yeah.
So that pressure builds up. There's a track in therapy where we talk about discomfort tolerance and allowing ourselves to sit in that discomfort. It feels yucky. It's but that's how we build tolerance, to give our brain space from the moment we jump on that pathway to act it out to the moment we complete the act. Is if we can expand that discomfort tolerance, it gives our brain more time to go, oh, now I can tell you, you're not the only one. I have found myself halfway through a pint of ice cream at times and like, what am I doing? Oh, and quickly, putting it in the sink and running water in it. Does it take away the amount that I've already eaten and those calories? No, but it allows me to say, oh, I'm eating this because so and so did this to me today, and I'm really angry and I'm really hurting, and I just want to cuss them out or yell at them. And so coming up with new ways to do that, whether they're there or not, is how you allow the angry girl to get her needs met without it involving food. And using coaching as a way, Joanne and I have been doing coaching in groups, and the other day we were doing a group and she just kept asking a person who was struggling. Like, we had heard 100 excuses about why I can't do this and why I can't do that and why this and I can't and I can't and I can't and I can't and I thought surgery was going to and I can't. And Joanne is very good at just continuing to ask the questions to open up And she finally got to a point where it took a good amount of time, because she holds you accountable to asking the question. So, and so it teaches your brain to think, what can I do instead? 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 You know, as something, you know, as we, because these are now like getting into the ugly parts. This is the
very ugly part. Yeah.
It's the very ugly parts, because we thought it was going to be magic, man.
Yeah. Also, we thought that once the weight is gone, like all these hopes and dreams that we had, they would just like magically appear, right? Like I thought for sure when I was at my goal weight, I would just have to put myself on one dating app and like I would match with the perfect person who would then want to marry me. All of Instagram was there when that did not happen, because that's how I started running in the first place, because I had to get this person out of my head and out of my heart who like literally broke my heart. So yeah, we think we lose the weight and then like poof, you know, your life is perfect for the rest of your life.
Right.
And it's not.
So can I ask you a question? I'm just curious that way back when, let's backtrack just a quick moment. When you first went down this journey of having your surgery, starting on your plan, there was obviously something that was working for you as far as some of those, the binging and purging and those
it was the sheer fear
craves,
that
right?
my stomach could explode if I put food in it. I kept hearing my dietitian's words.
So is that something that you tested, and when you realized your stomach didn't explode?
Exactly. That's how my brain works. If my same example with running. So I'm running a 15K on Saturday. Never. I'm happy that you're so excited about it. The longest distance I've ever run was 10K, but now I've run 10K 3, 4, 5 times, so now I know it works. So I'm no longer afraid. The 15K scares the shit out of me because that's a new distance that I'm not accustomed to. As soon as my brain figures out the status quo, that's it, good or bad. As soon as my brain figured out that I can eat, maybe not a whole box of Twinkies, but I can definitely eat 3. And then I eat another 3. And then I eat another 3 if I just wait in between, you know? As soon as my brain figured that out, this was, I don't want to say this was all for nothing, because it wasn't all for nothing, but you get what I'm saying? My brain was like, okay, yeah, nice try, but
So then my next question is, do you like being at the mercy of your brain?
No, I hate it. I hate it so much.
And so there's an element of this that has a big feeling of, well, I'm out of control and I have no choice in the matter. And I just have to do what my brain says. And actually that's so not true, because we can step aside and tell our brain, shut up, I'm not doing that. And you can make that choice. Sometimes it's just believing that you have the power to make that choice.
And you know, there's a lot of people that I hear this all the time when someone will say to me, oh, when I get to XYZ weight, I'm going to be so happy. It's going to make me so happy. And so I have 2 things to say about that. One is there are a lot of thin people that aren't happy. And how will you know when you've gotten
also
there?
This whole goal weight thing? So my surgeon never set a goal weight for me. I think Dr. Schwack would have been elated if I had told him I want to lose 80 pounds, I want to be around 200. He would have been great. I said my initial goal weight was 165 pounds, and he was like, why? And I'm like, because it's a nice number. And he's like, okay, we're gonna go with that. So once I hit 165 pounds, I was like, well, I could lose another 10 pounds. It's like, you know, once you see a certain amount of weight, you're not happy because you think 10 more, that's going to make me happy. And then what happens after that 10? So that whole goal weight thing, it looks really cool on Instagram, but it's sort of like, it's also just like, you're so tied to the scale. At one point, I weighed myself every day. That's insane because your body fluctuates, if you put food in it or not, because your functions in your body fluctuate. Yeah, so that's that.
Well, if there's one thing that, I can say is, we've talked about some of the good about what this could have brought for you. We talked about things that you didn't really know a little bit as far as with some of the bad. And we got a little bit into some of the ugly. That's something, I guess, in our next talk that we could really delve into in a little bit more depth. But, we really were pulling some questions out and giving, with your permission, some suggestions, perhaps that might be beneficial to you. So is there something that you can take away from tonight that might empower you to consider working toward the continuum of change?
Yeah, so, and Tammy has said that before. So for those of you who don't know that, Tammy was my therapist. The sitting with my feelings I think is really something that I should explore, because I feel like I just have to get over this hump of like ickiness, and then this pressure may subside, and then I may be in control again of what I'm doing if I could just like she said, if I could just build up a tolerance. And that's really something I think I should explore.
Oh, good. So if you can think of yourself, think of your emotions, and I just shared this in a group the other night. Emotions are transient. They don't stick around. So if you can imagine the emotions that are coming over you, that they're like a wave, and you're standing at the beach and they're like a wave. They're going over you. Now, they might try to knock you down because you don't have your footing yet and you're working on getting your footing, but they're not permanent. They're not going to stay. And if you can just breathe, recognize what's coming at you. Oh, it's just a wave. Oh, I'm just angry. I'm hurt. I'm sad. I'm disappointed. Because what happens is we eat so we don't have to say those words, right?
Yeah.
If the wave is coming and I'm ready to say, oh, I'm so disappointed, and instead of saying I'm so disappointed, I say I'm so disappointed. Mm-hmm. Now I don't have to say it.
Yeah, you swallow your feelings.
I swallow it, and now I can complain. Oh, my belly hurts, but I didn't say I'm disappointed. But my belly hurts, and now I got to go throw up. Or, oh my God, I can't believe I had a. And so, and those are things that we've learned from childhood, because feeling the feeling was never acceptable. And so learning that feelings are transient, that if we feel them and name them, we can move on from them. And just making the choice to say, you know what? I don't know about you, but I'm stubborn. It's like, and you are not going to defeat me, whatever. I'm going to win this.
Well, I've come such a long way, and I don't want to admit that this experiment has failed,
It hasn't failed.
I don't even want to think that it has.
Well, but you just said something. You just said, I have come a long way. Hold on to that
part.
Hold on to that. Come back to that. That's the part of self-care, self-love, of acknowledging where you are today and accepting where you are today. And part of that acceptance might be that you're just struggling right now for whatever reason. And if you can work through those feelings, then it could be the gateway to move to the next step.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hear that. Yep. But right.
I think it's a process. It's,
It's
and
definitely a process, and you're not alone.
which is it's a comforting thought that I'm not the only person. I'm definitely happy that I found running. It has been my saving grace. And yes, I know you cannot out exercise a bad diet, but running is more than just, out exercising anything. It's become my outlet. So I'm really happy that that's working for me. And I know I can get these 8 pounds under control. And I also hope that I can stop the binging and the purging. I think for me, it's as much as I want to have a good relationship with food, certain things are just so inherently you that, like some preferences you have, those are your preferences. Some characteristics that you have, those are your characteristics. You cannot. I will probably for a very long time, if not for the rest of my life, have a difficult relationship with food. Alcoholics, they're sober, but they're still alcoholics. So I'm probably always going to be a food addict. But how I deal with it, I want this to work for me. I need to acknowledge that this may be an issue for me, but how I deal with it, I think that's the decisive factor for me.
And how you treat yourself in the midst of it. Like, and when you say, I'm so glad I blah blah blah, I've come a long way, but learning to stop your verbalization and the dialogue right there, I've come a long way.
I have come a long way.
I remember when you first started running, and the idea that you were even going to run at all scared you.
Oh yeah, it scared the shit out of me.
And when you first started, doing the steps to even get conditioned, and this is the same thing. If anyone would have said to you a year and a half ago, in the midst of everything that was going on in your life, oh, in 2 years you're gonna run a half marathon, you can like,
yeah,
not this girl, not this girl. You're like,
but I am running a half marathon in December, so.
mm-hmm.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Hold on to these good feelings, right? And I know that we're going to have to tie it up tonight. So, we hope that this was helpful, informative, and a great way to show you what the possibilities are and just unpacking some of it. You definitely have a smile on your face now where you didn't earlier. So that's really awesome. So it's all about, cutting yourself some slack, to love yourself enough to know that you can make this work. It just right now might be a funky time for you. It just might be part of the process. So one day at a time, and you've done so much. Keep coming back to that. Do the best that you can with, acknowledging yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun, even though we're talking about some pretty ugly things. Sometimes you have to talk about these things. That's for sure. No one told me that before surgery. So
yes. And
that's okay.
Thanks, Sandy. Thanks for being willing to be so transparent and open. Not everybody's not so willing to do that. So thank you. And for everybody who's watching, this is what Joanne and I do, is we work with you and help you to work through a lot of the negative thoughts or beliefs and all of that stuff that comes bubbling up as you take the fat layers off. And no one ever tells you that that's going to happen. So, go ahead.
And thank you for all these sweet comments that I'm reading. Like every now and then I kept reading these little comments. Thank you so much for all the sweet things you lovely people out there have been saying.
You're not alone. You're
Yes.
not alone. Remember that. Okay.
Thank you. I will talk to you soon.
All right.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.